You good boy? All right.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone. We are here, super excited once again on a Monday morning here at More Motivation Podcast, bright
Right.
and early, live and in person. I am the co-host, Troy Christopher Moore. We're here with the founder and the president, Mr. Kendrick Moore. Good morning, Kendrick. How you doing this Monday
Man,
morning?
listen, I'm excited, man. Locked in, ready to go. My man Cody just ran downstairs, woke up. He's down here with us, so we ready to go.
Man, let's make this happen, man, as we always do, especially when we get this opportunity to do this in
That's
person.
right.
So as we do here at More Motivation, we like to give shout outs and just talk about some of the great things that's going on, upcoming,
Yep.
events in the community and things that even we're doing here at More Motivation. So what do we have for the shout out for our listeners for this week?
Yeah. So we get the beautiful fortune of, as we say when we started this thing, just really continuing to spread the word and just do our best with motivating areas, groups, teams to just give their best, and then what does that look like? Finding the right mentality, whatever those conversations might look like, so once again, coming up and then actually 2 weeks from today, I'll be going up to Syracuse. I wish you guys were around, to do some work with their football team.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So, and again, we talk about it, like, is it something that we want to try to look to do a little more full time? But, but I love doing it on the scale that we get to do it on, just really because I love doing a lot of the groundwork with everything else that we're doing.
Right.
But even when I was in St. Louis, was talking to the coach about doing some work with them and, possibly going back to Mizzou to do some stuff. So, but, we'll see what that, if we decide we want to pursue it, we'll hope to do that, but really, really excited about that, especially Syracuse, Troy, because, that's the school we grew up loving.
Man, that's the school right there, man. Man, the Orange Man.
That's the school we grew up loving. So,
Orange man. I'm telling you, the greats. And that's when Big East basketball was at its finest.
Yeah,
man.
for sure. Yeah.
Man, them used to be some battles man, back then, man. So shout out to Syracuse, man, and shout out to the football team, man. Listen, we coming.
Yeah.
We coming.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful for the coach and all those that help facilitate and get that going.
For sure.
So now let's talk about last week's podcast where we got some amazing feedback in regards to basketball was life. Right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about some of the feedback we got.
Yeah, and it transitions to all sports. When we talk about ball was life, we talk about Syracuse going to do football, but a lot of the conversation we had last week, we were talking about basketball and just the climate where, and it's never going to change, where it shifted, the attention is shifted from winning to individual.
Right.
The irony is, Troy, a hockey coach, a good friend of mine, just called me like prior to the weekend, where he's having issues with players on his team. Same type situation, where he's putting himself and his own personal feelings before the team.
Oh wow.
So this stuff extends, beyond just basketball, beyond sports. It's becoming a replication of life, because that's how a lot of kids are living today.
Right.
But man, when you see these things happening every day at the higher levels of sports, and we're the copycat society, people are just going to mimic it.
Yeah.
To avoid any disappointment, anything that looks like they're not doing well, they're going to just focus their attention on themselves, leave, quit, whatever. So we're just in a bad space with sports, and so many people connected on it. This is how, whether they saw one of the clips, that crew team may have put up, it's just always this reverberation of that message that people see today in this climate.
Man, yeah, it was such, like I said, amazing feedback. And I love the fact that, you know, the basketball was the analogy, but how it also transcended into people's everyday
Right,
lives.
right,
Man.
right.
So we got some great, amazing feedback,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
So just very grateful for that. And
Yes.
grateful to all of our listeners, man.
For sure, for sure.
So today we got something a little bit different.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna see how this
Yeah,
goes.
yeah,
You know, we
yeah.
got this for our
Yeah,
our listeners,
yeah.
man. So we're doing a little role
Yeah,
reversal
yeah.
here
That's right. That's right.
on today.
Yep.
So
And it
I'll
really,
pass
and
it
it,
over
yep,
to
and
you.
it, yeah, and it really started, Troy, because and I think that's the beauty of, some group chats are dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I can say maybe 90+% of the time in our group chat, there might be a hole in there every now and then when something crazy gets said.
Yeah,
But, we're always throwing out some positive words,
yeah,
and
for sure.
a lot of times, especially yourself, you always saying, "Oh man, that's a podcast topic. We can do. That's a podcast topic." So when you threw this one out there, middle or early last week, when you said, I was just like, no, I said, you hold on to that one, hold on to that thought, you'll be in town, be ready to deliver it. So that's what, that's where this one stemmed from. So I want you to just tell us, give us a little brief introduction, Troy, of like, what is this topic?
Man, so this topic, like you said, we just kind of threw it out there in regards to the chat.
Yeah.
And it just came to mind because, obviously living in the South.
Yeah.
The type of weather and climate that we normally have.
Yeah.
Wintertime, it may get to 40s.
Yeah.
But we got 14 and a half inches of snow. Right? And the interesting thing about it was the whole town was like a mass hysteria because they've never experienced nothing like that before. Right. So I just was like, man, not being prepared for the moment. Right. So that's what we're going to talk about today, about not being prepared for the moment.
Yeah. And just a quick time, just before we even start the regular questions, Troy, like, what made you like really focus on that? Like, what made that be so impactful to you?
What made it impactful to me was something somebody said to me there. Because when I was out there, because I had a plan in how I was removing the snow, right? So I went out there every hour.
Okay.
Because down there, no shovels nowhere.
Right.
No
right,
snow
right,
blowers.
Right.
No salt.
Right.
So
right.
I was like, okay, I got to come up with a plan.
That's right.
So once it's done, I don't got to go out there to 14 and a half inches of snow.
That's right. Come here, Cass.
So, and going out there every hour, somebody said to me like, hey man, you must be from up north because you seem to understand how to do this. And I didn't even really think about it. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm from Connecticut, man. He was like, yeah, man, because you really... And that's when it popped in my mind that he wasn't prepared for this particular moment. So that's kind of how this thing came into play.
Yeah. Oh man, that's interesting. And so when you talk about a moment, Troy, and I know you just talked about, like, you described that a little bit in terms of how the situation came about.
Right.
But how would you describe it? Like, so a moment, like, so what does that mean in general?
A moment is, to me, it leads to hour. That hour leads to a day, and then so on and so forth. So moments are very critical. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we should never take any type of moment for granted.
Right.
Every single moment we should be honing in on something and trying to figure out something. And I think about the Steve Jobs documentary, right? Everybody, we know Steve Jobs, the inventor of Apple, crazy, like $50-60 billion empire. In the documentary, he got fired from IBM. And he said he was in his garage and he said he had a moment that he thought about creating something called a smartphone. Right? So just that particular moment, look at what has transcended.
Wow.
Where almost 85, 90% of all humans got a smartphone.
Right. Right.
Because of one moment.
Wow.
And then I often think about, what if he would have missed that moment? Right?
Yep.
What if he would have missed that? So that's how critical moments are.
Right.
You know, listeners, I really want you to understand that
Yep.
you could be one moment away from probably the greatest breakthrough in your entire life.
Oh man, and it sounds like, Troy, because I know we kind of like on that fine line where you talked about before. Moments must be big to you, Troy, because when you talked about before, you talked about seize the moment.
Yeah.
You know, that was a big conversation that you had, one of the podcasts that you delivered.
Yeah.
Now you're kind of talking about the actual act of, you know, kind of not being prepared for the moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I know you just touched on it a little bit, but really dive a little bit more on the importance of that, like making sure that you're aware when those moments show up.
Moments are unknown, right? Like right now, you know, it's 6:15 a.m. Monday morning. Once 6:16 happens, we will never see 6:15 a.m. on Monday ever again, right? On that particular day.
Wow.
So now the question comes in, what did I do at 6:15?
Right.
That's so impactful. That's going to make 6:16 that much better.
Wow.
Right. So really, and I know it probably seems like really minute on how we thinking about this, but it's just that critical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That there may be something that we can think about, something that we can do,
Right.
something that we can say
Right.
that can literally change the scope of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's all created from a moment.
Right. Right.
Right. We're master planners at, man, I got my week planned out. you know what I mean? I got the year planned
Right,
out. We're
right.
master planners at that. But
Setting
how
goals, what do I
we
want to
set
do?
goals, yes. When I'm, 25, I want to do this. When I'm 35, I want to be doing this,
Yeah.
right? But all of that is well and good, but it starts with a moment. So before we plan for those
Right.
big things,
Right.
we got to plan for the moment.
Right.
So that's where we really need to focus
Yeah.
it on.
And it those moments, man, they're so critical because a lot of times people look at your behavior, meaning they look at the action you're taking, whether it's good or bad, when you decided to change your behavior, whatever. But we say this, Troy, the actual day you made the decision is the most important.
Right.
You know, that particular moment that changed, something
Correct.
changed in you when the
Correct.
real switch happened for you to go on your journey. No, so
Correct.
you exactly right.
Correct.
And I love how you just touched on how important that minute is, like paying attention to it. Because if you do or don't in that minute, it's going to determine how that next minute looks.
Yes.
You know? So no, man,
Yes.
that's powerful.
Yes.
And I think, Troy, I think this is the question really that the audience has been waiting for you to really answer. How does not being prepared for the moment, because you talked about the importance of moments, where people can be, what that might look like when the moment strikes. But what does not being prepared for the moment, and how does that impact you?
Listeners, check this out. Where we all are in our lives at the moment is based upon decisions we made in moments prior to this present time. Right? So if you're in a particular space and you're not happy about that space, it is something that you missed in a moment that got you there, right? So we got to take accountability for that.
Right.
We got to stop blaming, oh, well, it's this, it's the society, it's this. We all get 24 hours in a day, right? We all got these opportunities, but it's the moments that kind of shift and change, the grand scope of our lives.
Right.
So like I used earlier in regards to the snowstorm, not being prepared for the moment, the state is in mass hysteria. Right? They was closed for 5 days.
Right.
For 14 and a half inches of
Wow.
snow. Where for a New Englander, 14 and a half inches is like, oh man, that's a brush storm.
Right,
man.
right, right.
Man, we'll get through
Right.
that. We'll be good in an hour.
Right.
Right. But for them, closed for 5 days.
Wow. Yep.
You know, we still, where we live, we still haven't seen a plow truck. You know what I mean? They literally wait on Mother Nature
Right.
for it to get warm
Right.
enough
Right.
to melt
Just
the
melt the
snow.
snow.
Right?
Melt the snow.
So people were not prepared for that.
Mm.
So when we're not prepared for these particular moments,
Mm-hmm.
it can impact our lives. And it can go back to one of the podcasts we talked about earlier about regretting certain things and living with regret, right? And then at the same time, when we're living with these regret, we're making regretful decisions because when we hone in on it and we're honest, we missed a moment somewhere. So it not only impacts you, it then impacts people you're connected to.
Right.
It can
Right.
impact your spouse.
Yep.
It can impact how you raise kids. You know, if you're a leader, it can impact those that follow you.
Yep.
So those moments don't just impact yourself.
Right.
But
Right.
when you miss those moments, it impacts everything in the environment.
Wow. Wow. No, it's crazy, Troy, that you mentioned that. Obviously, going back to even the snowstorm, because we had a pretty bad storm here ourselves. You know, our schools were closed for one day. You know, y'all shut down 5 days. Our schools shut down one day basically. You know, in most of the areas here, and when a lot of areas here got over 2 feet. You know, got over 2 feet of snow. But that's where you talk about when understanding, being prepared. You know, for those particular situations. And just when you talk about moments, Troy, I was just thinking like, man, like, what if our moments were the time that we were supposed to take advantage of our moments were 20 to 30 minutes before we normally wake up? You know, like, because, you know, something happened to me after a while, and I've always wanted to get up or early on time or whatever.
Right.
But I learned that when I'm up 3:30 in the gym, I'm at my best thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm able to.
Right.
So I wonder, like, man, if people that like to sleep late, like, what if they just got up a little bit earlier? You know, like just something as simple as that. Like, what would their thinking be like? Their approach to the day, you know? So in essence, they're kind of missing that moment of preparation.
Yes.
You know, the thing that, and they just get up and get going, you know, without being prepared. So, so no, I was just thinking about that as you was talking, man. I'm hoping everybody in the audience really understands the power of this conversation, because everybody always relates things to something big.
Right. Correct.
You know, and until we really seize the moment. We talked about fourth down focus when we talk about the ordinary moment. Like, until really people really start buying into this and understanding this, they'll always be seeking the grand thing before the little thing, and not being able to, like, man, this is, and we didn't plan this series like this to really keep talking about it.
Right.
But that's the importance of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the importance of it. So yeah, Troy, no, man, powerful topic. What do you want to leave the audience with today that they can make sure that they make the right step in their next moment?
Kendrick, before I jump there, I want our audience, right? Because it's a visual today, right? So I want our audience to watch your facial expression when I say this to you. What if you never picked up a basketball? You know what I mean? What in that moment, what if you missed that moment and would have never picked up a basketball? You know what I'm saying? So that's how important moments are. Right? So now you're probably thinking like, man, with 20, 30 years, you know, if I had never picked up a basketball, I probably would have never met the Ailers. I would have never went to Missouri. I would have never had the experience at Providence. Would I have even went to college? You know, that's the power of moments, where something as simple as that literally changed your whole life. Literally changed your whole life. So what I want to really leave to our listeners is, and I would really want you to kind of chime in on this too. What I really want to leave to our listeners is this. More motivation is a moment. That's what this podcast is. It's a moment, right? Where there is something that you will be dealing with at a specific time that you'd be like, man, let me just listen and see what they're talking about today. And it'll change your whole life. How do we know that? Because we get feedback of people telling us
Right,
that.
right,
Right?
right.
But what if whatever they were dealing with, and then they missed the moment of listening to the podcast and they continue to walk with that extra weight on their shoulders when the answer is within these 20 minutes.
Wow.
So now I'm
Wow.
going to pass this to you. So talk to us about how these moments have been so impactful.
Troy, I'm still stunned and thinking and reflecting on what you said.
All about
Like
the
if I'd have
basketball.
never picked up a basketball,
Right.
like I don't know when the first day was, but almost everything since I picked it up has been shaped by it in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So even with the things that you discussed, like the relationships built, you know, the opportunities gained from jobs to networking to,
My goodness.
you know, the grand scheme of things of being able to present my, like the escape it provided,
Right.
you know,
Right.
at a younger, like,
Correct.
man, no, that, and again, all from picking up a ball.
Yep. That's it.
And then just thinking, man, I mean, would I have found something else? But what if I just walked by it?
That's it.
What if I just walked by it?
That's right. That's the impact of people missing moments. Right?
I wouldn't have been out in Missouri last week seeing the Antlers.
Correct.
You know, I wouldn't have been out there seeing the Antlers.
Correct.
You know, we wouldn't have won state championships. You know, we wouldn't have had parades. You know,
Correct.
relationship wouldn't have been built with the Ritters, you know, the Speaker of the House for me to have a job when I came home and you know, like
Yep.
all of those little things,
Yes.
you know. And then it was, if I didn't have the escape, you know, at that time because of that, man,
Right.
man.
Right.
No, Troy. So, man, that's a really, really powerful moment, man. So, wow. And it's something I don't want to ever say I took it for granted, but I never even thought about the power of that moment, picking up that ball.
Right.
Yep. And what it's done for my life.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And something you said was, what I want our listeners to grab hold of this. You said, what if I had walked past that ball?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So listeners, this is kind of a rhetorical question that I want you to grab hold to. What have you walked by that could have changed your life?
Wow.
Right? Where you was like, and one of the things we always say, because that procrastination is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'll take care of that later. I'll do, you know, not even realizing that moment was built
Yep.
for that particular thing
for that particular time
to be taken care of, and we'll say, I'll do it later.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So listeners,
Wow.
thank you so much for tuning in this week, man. We had a blast, man. And like I said, we love doing these things in person, man. So listeners, lock in.
I just want to thank my son, Kenrick Moore, for dedicating his life to helping our youth. I know it's a tough task, but keep up the good work with Moore Basketball Clinic. I'm proud of the man you have become. I love you.